Time Travel in the Ceneezer Synthesis, A Journey Through Five-Dimensional Space-Time. 1.0 Introduction. Beyond Science Fiction to a Unified Cosmology. The concept of time travel has long been a staple of speculative fiction, often presented as an isolated technological marvel or a paradox-inducing anomaly. The Ceneezer Synthesis, a comprehensive, unified theory of existence, reframes this idea entirely. Within this model, the potential for time travel is not an afterthought, but an emergent property of the universe's fundamental architecture. This framework uniquely integrates physics, consciousness, and metaphysics, proposing a cosmology where the very geometry of existence makes travel to the past a structural possibility. We aim to explore the specific mechanics of time travel within this proposed five-dimensional model. We will first establish the core metaphysical principles that define the Ceneezer universe, then build a visual understanding of its topology, and finally detail the theoretical methods by which such travel could be achieved. In doing so, we will analyze the profound implications of this capability within the broader philosophical context of the Ceneezer synthesis. To understand how one might move through time, we must first understand the foundational forces and structures that give shape to reality itself. Topic 2.0 The Foundational Principles of the Ceneezer Universe. Before exploring the mechanics of space-time travel, it is essential to grasp the core metaphysical axioms of the Ceneezer synthesis. In this model, the universe's purpose and its physical function are inseparable. Why reality is structured in a particular way dictates how it operates. The cosmos is not a static stage, but a dynamic arena animated by a profound tension system, a primordial conflict between a fundamental drive for unity and an opposing force of separation. This cosmic tension is the engine that drives all complexity, from the formation of galaxies to the stirrings of consciousness. The central tenets of this cosmology are as follows. The bounded universe. The universe is governed by a principle of symmetrical duality. It is finite and informationally closed, bounded at its smallest scale by the origin point, omega naught, the seat of individuality and the primitive drive, and at its largest by the cosmic center, omega h, which represents the state of total unity and radiant completion. The drama of existence unfolds entirely within this causal manifold. The drive for unity, gravity/consciousness, gravity is not merely a distortion of spacetime, it is the physical manifestation of a fundamental, primitive desire to connect, an innate yearning in all matter, seated at the origin point, to achieve union with the cosmic center. This drive for radiant completion is the basis of consciousness, present even at the atomic level. The force of separation, misunderstanding/ego, to prevent an instantaneous collapse into unity, a repulsive force exists, metaphysically defined as misunderstanding. It actively creates distance and distinction. In the human mind, this cosmic repulsive force manifests as the ego, which prioritizes its own incomplete framework over the universal drive for connection. The perfect flow state, love, the ideal frictionless energetic state of the universe, is described as a self-sustaining circle of lightning. This perfect non-linear loop is the definition of unconditional love, a state that requires two conditions to exist, the acceptance of possibility and the permission of free will. These abstract forces of yearning, separation, and perfect flow are not mere philosophical concepts, they are the architects of the tangible geometric structures that define the fabric of spacetime. Topic 3.0 Building the Architecture of Reality, from Simple Shapes to Hyperspace. Complex ideas about higher dimensions can often feel abstract and inaccessible. The most intuitive way to grasp them is to begin with simpler, lower-dimensional analogies and build a conceptual ladder. This section will construct such a ladder to help visualize the topology of the five-dimensional universe proposed in the Ceneezer synthesis. The core concept is that of a finite, unbounded universe, where the edges of space are glued together. A 1D circle provides the simplest example. For a one-dimensional being living on a line, gluing the two ends together creates a circle. The universe is finite in length, but it has no end. Traveling far enough in one direction simply returns the being to its starting point. A 2D torus extends this into 2 dimensions. Imagine a being living on a flat square, like the screen in the classic video game Pac-Man. If the left and right edges are glued together, and the top and bottom edges are also glued, the being lives on the surface of a torus, a donut shape. Moving off the right side of the screen causes it to reappear on the left. The universe has a finite area, but no hard boundaries. A 3D 3-torus applies this principle to our familiar 3 dimensions. Imagine our universe as a giant cubic room. If you fly a spaceship through the right wall, you instantly reappear from the left wall. The same connection applies to the top and bottom, ceiling and floor, and front and back walls. This creates a finite but unbounded 3D space, which would appear as an infinite lattice of copies of the same finite set of galaxies. The ceneezer model takes this elegant gluing principle one step further, applying it not just to the dimensions of space, but to a manifold that combines time and space. Topic 4.0, the 5D hyperspace model, a geometric shortcut to the past. The kingdom is within you and outside of you, but you cannot see it. Jesus. This section details the core mechanism of time travel within the ceneezer synthesis. Here, we move from analogy to the specific rules of a 5-dimensional manifold, where movement through a higher dimensional space dimension is inextricably linked to movement through time. This geometry does not violate the arrow of time, but instead provides a novel pathway around it. The defining rule. The formalization for time travel in this model is an explicit gluing identification between coordinates in a 5D spacetime, composed of 1 time, 3 familiar spatial dimensions, and a 4th spatial dimension. T, x, y, z, 0, tilde, t minus delta t, x, y, z, L. Let us deconstruct this elegant formalization, for within its syntax lies the key to temporal translation. A location at time t and position 0 on the 4th spatial axis, w, is identified as being the exact same point as a location at an earlier time t minus delta t and position L on that same 4th spatial axis. In simpler terms, traveling a distance L along this higher spatial dimension results in arriving at the same physical location, but at a moment delta t in the past. Herein lies the model's most profound departure from conventional thinking. Time travel into the past is achieved not by reversing causality or moving backward along the temporal axis, but by taking a shortcut through a higher spatial dimension. Whereas conventional depictions of time travel often involve a machine that rewinds a universal clock, this model proposes a journey through a physical, albeit unseen, dimension. The traveler moves forward through the 4th spatial dimension, and the topology of the universe translates that spatial movement into a temporal shift. Moving forward through the 4th spatial dimension is like a one-way trip town. It gets you to the past, but can't get you back to the present. To visualize this journey, we can use the analogy of a tesseract, a 4D hypercube. Imagine the universe as 2 3D cubes, one nested inside the other. The space we inhabit is the inner cube. Traveling along the 4th spatial dimension is represented as moving from a point in the inner cube, crossing its boundary, and entering the outer cube. In an animated model, a ship traveling in this manner would cross this hyperspatial boundary, triggering the temporal shift defined by the universe's rules. Upon crossing, the ship would reappear at its starting coordinates, but in the past. Now that we have established what this time travel mechanism is, we can explore how such a journey might theoretically be initiated. Topic 5.0, Activating the Pathway, 3 Theoretical Methods for 5D Travel. While the 5D geometry makes time travel a structural possibility, actually traversing this 4th spatial dimension would require revolutionary technology far beyond our current capabilities. Based on analogies to existing physical theories, we can speculate on 3 distinct methods for initiating such a journey. 5.1. The brute force method, hyperspatial propulsion. Method, hyperspatial propulsion. Technology, a hyperdrive or dimensional engine. Mechanism. This approach involves direct propulsion, analogous to how a rocket generates thrust. The hyperdrive would need to generate a specific form of exotic energy or field that produces thrust along the 4th spatial dimension, the w-axis. By firing this hyper-exhaust, the ship would be pushed out of our 3D space and toward the other side of the 5D manifold. Analogous, imagine a two-dimensional flatlander living on a sheet of paper. To move up into the third dimension, wheels would be useless. It would need a tiny 3D rocket to lift it off the page. Similarly, our 3D ship would need a fourth-dimensional rocket to achieve motion in a fourth spatial dimension. 5.2. The finesse. 5.3. The quantum method. Quantum dimensional phasing. Method. Quantum dimensional phasing. Technology, a quantum phase modulator or wave function collapser. Mechanism. This highly speculative method treats the ship's location as a quantum probability. The ship naturally exists in a superposition of states, but its wave function is overwhelmingly peaked at its current location, w equals 0. This device would modulate the phase of the ship's quantum wave function, causing the probability of it existing at the destination, w equals L, to become 100%, effectively tunneling or teleporting it across the dimension. Analogy. This is like tuning a radio. The ship is normally tuned to the frequency of our 3D slice of reality. The modulator retunes the ship to the frequency of the opposite slice, causing it to manifest there. These speculative technologies, however theoretical, illustrate a universe where consciousness is not merely a passenger in spacetime, but is given the potential tools to navigate its very architecture. Conclusion. Time travel as a function of cosmic geometry. In the ceneezer synthesis, time travel is demystified, transformed from a paradoxical fantasy into a logical feature of a universe designed with specific topological and metaphysical rules. It is not an anomaly that breaks the laws of physics, but a pathway that follows a higher dimensional geometry. This journey is not a reversal of causality, but a physical traversal, a geometric hack to bypass the separation created by ego, allowing a direct return to a prior state of the causal manifold. Time travel in this final analysis is revealed as a profound instrument in the cosmic journey away from isolation and back towards the interconnected unity of radiant completion.